Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Tina's Arena. Today, I have on my friend Erin, and she's going to tell us a story.
I'm so happy to be here. Hi, Tina.
Right.
This is so fun. Hi, everyone. So, I'm a spiritual psychology teacher, and everything I share with the world is rooted in Eastern ritual and Western psychology. The story that I feel called to share is something I've actually been talking about a little bit because I'm investigating this beautiful topic of miracles. Specifically, we talk about manifestation a lot, and manifestation and miracles overlap quite beautifully. So when I was 23 years old, so 11 years ago, I was on a one-way plane ticket living in Israel. And I just led a trip, a 10-day trip throughout the whole country. I was hanging out at my best friend's apartment in Jerusalem, and I overstayed my welcome. I was also dating this guy in Jerusalem, and like things were fizzling out. And I just had this urgency to leave. And there's this ashram in the Israeli desert called Shatim B'Midbar, and it's an Osho ashram. So Osho is an Indian yogic educator. He educates on mostly active meditation, which is something, as you know, I teach quite often. And I ended up hopping on a bus and showing up to this ashram way south in Israel. And I get off the bus and a storm is rolling in and it's getting really cold and there's dust everywhere. And I look around and everyone is setting up their tents. And I think to myself, oh my God, Erin, you don't have a tent. And I'm starting to freak out. I'm so outside of my comfort zone. I'm truly in the middle of nowhere. And this specific retreat, it was a shamanic retreat and it was an invitation for shaman around the world to come together. A shaman is typically a bridge between the spiritual world and this physical world, a healer, an energy healer of some sort. And I'm walking around and I meet these sweet students from Stable Care and they're like, Yalla, Erin, of course, you can stay in our tent. I meet these women from Tel Aviv and they're like, yeah, for sure. Like you can hang out in our tent. But there was a sex party that was happening at this ashram. And I'm 23 and I'm so far away from home. And yeah, maybe if I was in a different headspace, I could have dipped a toe in. But for the most part, I was kind of freaking out on the verge of a panic attack and feeling like totally crazy. Who do I think I am to live this life? I had the most amazing corporate marketing job in Chicago. I had the cutest Wrigleyville apartment where I lived with my two best friends. I moved back into my parents' house to listen to this inner whisper. And I'm feeling that stretch of I'm really uncomfortable. I'm super anxious. I don't feel safe. I don't feel like I'm doing what I set out to do. And I'm on a one-way plane ticket. I'm planning to live here for the next 6 or so months. And I have no plan. I have no way to make money. I had no idea what I was doing. And I start to freak out. And I didn't want to just stay in like someone's random tent because what if that was a tent that was hosting the sex party and I find myself in the middle of this orgy when I'm already kind of in a freaked out headspace. There was just a lot of layers to everything I was moving through in that moment. And I decided to find a shaded area. And I place my right hand on my heart, my left hand on my stomach, and I breathe into my lower belly. And I breathe into my upper chest. And I exhale through my mouth and I let it go. And I inhale into my lower belly. And I inhale my upper chest. And I exhale through my mouth and I let it go. And I begin to pray the way that I understood prayer at 23. And I asked for help. I asked for guidance. And very specifically, I asked for a tent. That was just like the one specific thing that I needed. There's a very specific framework I teach in my book, Nothing Can Stop You, called the PPP method. And this is a version of that. Pause, pray, and pay attention. And I got to this moment of surrender where I realized I'm probably, I don't know, I'm just going to have to gamble, hang out in someone's tent and like hope that everything's cool. And I end up getting a cup of tea because it's very cold. Like it's like there was no way for me to have slept outside of a tent. And as I'm getting this cup of tea, the guy next to me says he's from Chicago. And I'm like, oh my God, I am from Chicago. And we played like some connections and we knew mutual people. And I instantly felt so much better. It really felt like, okay, this person was sent to you to show you that like you're fine, you're safe, you're connected, you're good. And I said, I know this is so random. By any chance, do you have an extra tent? He says, yeah, I actually do have an extra tent. It's like kind of lopsided and broken, and it only fits one person. And I really felt that divine wink. And it's something that could have been surpassed as synchronicity or like good luck. But I understood the message for what it was. It was a very quiet miracle that provided me the exact shelter I needed in a moment to dive deeper into my spiritual practice. And I decided to lean in. And I leaned in very deeply and completely, trusting that there was a bigger energy at play, expanding myself as the vessel to receive the miracle, doing the needed work to regulate my nervous system. And that moment, I mean, a lot more happened that weekend. I like saw an exorcism. I met a shaman who knew everything about me. I went walking in the desert by myself and heard like a very clear voice guiding me. Like really, it was an intense catalyst. And essentially, after living in Israel for those 6 months, I moved to India. But that's just one story that kind of led to who I really am today, which is this belief that miracles truly are a birthright, and it requires an expanded belief system so that you can even receive them. But the Baal Shem Tov, who's a great Kabbalist, says, once you believe in miracles, you become a vessel for them.
Thank you, Erin. That's so fascinating. Did you always believe in miracles, or was that a skill that you had to learn? Is it even a skill?
Oh, I think it's definitely a skill that people can exercise. Did I always believe in miracles? On some level, I think yes. I think it's a miracle that you and I are even connecting right now. I think being here in this timeline is quite a miracle, but we forget it. I think we are living, breathing things as miracles. There's a lot of foundational stories rooted in miracles in all organized religion. However, in every single story where a miracle does occur, there's always the option, right? So there's the community that shows up for the miracle and the community that witnesses the miracle and still decides to not believe in it. So this expanded belief system is always necessary.
And how do you start to practice that if you didn't already have it?
So the first thing is to recognize where miracles have occurred in your life. And it's like a miracle audit. So it's looking at how you became who you are right now in this moment, and the heightened emotional states or the obstacles or like the pivots that brought you to where you are right now. Or even specifically, we have divine stories that we've experienced in our life. And anyone who's listening, I invite you to think about what is a raw truth that you experience that if it didn't happen to you, you might not have believed it. And everybody has a story right like that. And we forget to kind of retell ourselves the story that led to something so profound. For anyone that is in a loving partnership, finding that beloved is a miracle. For anybody who's a parent, birthing that being is like joining in that birthing is a miracle. For anyone who has launched a business and birthed something into this world of that nature, that itself is a miracle. Another massive miracle is forgiveness or healing your lineage. That's a lot of the work for people right now, is healing their ancestral lineage. So being the last person in their lineage to not replicate old negative patterns, or to forgive the outlier that really needs that redemption. Another layer of miracles that I talk about so often is to stop abandoning yourself. So this is a massive reclamation, and in a reclamation in itself, where you are stepping into the fullness of embodiment of who you are, that in itself is also a miracle.
I'm thinking of your 3P framework, which you've taught me because for anyone listening, Erin has also been one of my teachers. Pause, pray, pay attention. And I wanted to ask you, based on what you're saying, is paying attention the most important step, or are they all
Ah,
integral?
so they're all really important, but we always forget the last P. So
Mhm.
so this is the PPP framework, and let's talk about it. So the first P is pause, and do whatever you need to do in that pause. Call your friend and cry. Open up a journal and write down what you're moving through. Stop and meditate. Drink a whole glass of water, eat a nourishing meal, do whatever you need to do in that P to honor that pause. But in that pause, at some point, you are recognizing that you are in conflict, that something needs to shift. And I'll just say, as an asterisk, I do this all the time. I did this yesterday, and it led to a massive miracle. Pretty massive for me, at least. But I do the PPP method literally all the time. The second P is to pray. Prayer is a framework, it is spiritual technology. It's another way to communicate about your deep desires and dreams. It's a way to speak authentically to a higher power as you understand it. A caveat around prayer is to release and have emunah, we call it, which is trust, that what you are praying for is not always on your timeline. So I always like to bring that up. And I didn't even, in my book, I talk about this. But you do not know better than God. You do not know better than the energy around you. But the prayer in the moment is to ask for the direction that you need. Ask for the thing that you need unapologetically, Ask from a place of goodness and authenticity. Ask with integrity in your heart, because when you ask for what you most desire, it's typically of highest good for all those around you. And the last P is to pay attention. So I'll oftentimes ask for a symbol, like show me a deer, or play that Fleetwood Mac song that will show me that I'm on the right path, or send me a very specific sign so that I know that everything is good, that I'm in flow. And we oftentimes can honor the pause, we can honor the pray, but we forget the pay attention part. And when the miracle comes, or when the shift in energy occurs, we almost think of it as like we don't give it the love and meaning and attention that it needs or desires. Because if you just see a deer and you're like, oh my God, that's a deer, but it really, you asked for that sign. So it's, oh my God, this validates what I was thinking about. I am on the right path. I am confirmed in my belief system. I am always being supported. And then it supports that leaning in even more.
Hmm. Yeah, I was asking because of my own experiences. I think I can very easily just stop and like pause. I pray or I think about what it is that I'm really asking for, but asking for a very specific sign and then waiting for it, that's where the struggle is.
And that's okay. And I think there's a gentleness that needs to occur there. You could always play. Here's the thing, like there have been seasons in my life, depending on the client that I'm working with, where I'll say something like, send me the sign before Friday, send me the sign within the next 48 or 24 hours. And then I've learned more recently that divinity, it's a different timeline, it's a different layer. So I try to be more gentle on the timeline where I desire it. A perfect example of this is my book. I started writing this in college. And of course, the stories that I've told in my book, they're experiences of living in Israel and living in India and having my master's in clinical psychology and manifesting my soulmate and building a freedom-based business and things in spiritual psychology and things in that trajectory. I wanted so badly to have this book out into the world, to have this literary agent, to have this book deal. And I needed to live the life. I needed to live the story that was going to resonate with the readers. So it was releasing the timeline, but having absolute certainty of the outcome. This is then kind of bridging us into a conversation around manifestation.
What were the signs that you asked for or that you started to see that made you feel ready that this book was good to come to life?
One of the greatest spiritual practices is pay attention to what's occurring naturally. So I always think of this when it comes to my relationship with my husband, John. I was in such devotion to call in my soulmate. I was in such regular spiritual practice of teaching a very specific framework, snapshot manifestation, which you're trained in because you've gone through the aligned coaching certification. And I'll just say here, because I brought it up, Tina and I connected when I spoke at this amazing Dovetail women's retreat in Canada, and then joined my signature certification program where you become a certified meditation teacher and spiritual psychology coach. And one of the many frameworks that is taught in ACC is the snapshot manifestation framework, which is the exact framework I use to call in my husband, my book deal, connecting with all of you right now. So during the season of my life, it's 2017, I'm regularly practicing snapshot manifestation. I'm regularly sitting in the feeling of being with my beloved. I'm taking aligned actions every single day, which meant I'm showing up for dates. I'm saying yes to networking events. I'm really expanding myself to be the energy that I desire to attract as well. And there were all these whispers about my husband, John. Like my mom kind of brought him up years ago that I might be interested in him. And then I ran into his mom and it was the Jewish high holidays. And I was like saying Happy New Year to her. And she was like, Happy New Year, Erin. And just so you know, John is single. And I was like, oh my God, that's so random that you would say that. But it's not. These things aren't random. That's so human of us to say this is so random. So I paid attention to what was occurring naturally. And then I Facebook friended John, which was like I was seeing somebody at the time. So I felt that was a very like appropriate aligned action. And then John messaged me. I ended up breaking up with the guy that I was seeing. And we started dating and we moved in together right away, backpacked Asia, got engaged, got married like pretty quickly. And then the same thing was true with my literary agent, not the pace so much, but we were in Bali and I was sitting in the feeling. I pitched my dream literary agents. And what's so interesting is I was working with this amazing editor and she sent me a very short list of literary agents that she thought would be a really good fit for me. And the same agent kept coming up over and over and over again. So naturally, I pitched her from this place of, oh, this is a wink, this is a whisper, this is alignment. So once I received my email back from her and she emailed me, she was like, I know I already want to sign you. Like she didn't even meet me over a Zoom call yet. She's just like, I already want to sign you. So that in itself, I think, was a very powerful manifestation and miracle come to be.
Those do sound like miracles.
Yeah.
And I know this latest chapter that you've entered in is motherhood. Can you
Oh
share
my
how that's
goodness.
been going?
There is, and I mean, Tina, you knew me before, right? I just feel it's the best. Like the way that I love this little girl is so intoxicating and delicious and meaningful. There's nothing I've ever experienced like it. It is, I want to eat her. Like it's like I'm obsessed with her. I don't get like she wakes me up at 2 a.m. and I lay in bed and I read. I've been reading so many books. And my daughter Eden is 20 months. I'm still nursing her, although like slowing down. I have a very flexible schedule, thank God. That's why I built this type of business. And I'm with her a lot. We've traveled the whole world in the last year and a couple months. We live in Costa Rica in the winter. I had a retreat in Tuscany. We were in Italy and France for a while. I was very unwell the first 6, 7 months postpartum, extremely unwell. I look back to the version of myself that I was, and it was like very scary. I don't even like to call it postpartum depression or anxiety. I think I honor that for women who move through that diagnosis. It was so much more than that to me. It was like a complete identity crisis. I always had this intimate connection to myself and my spiritual connection. I had a natural labor. I was in labor for 40 hours. This is why I talk to my spiritual friends and clients all the time about plant medicine ceremonies. I'm like, I love that for you. You do you. I had a natural labor. I don't need to do that. Like I've went through the depths. I've been in the depths. I've saw God. I'm good. So motherhood kicked my ass and I was really hard on myself, I think, for a very long time because it was not the most intuitive thing for me. And I think I've over identified for so long as a nomad, an entrepreneur, like so spiritual. And I was really angry postpartum. And then I like got over it. And now it's just like the best. Like it's so fun. I think we just need to tell first time moms that it's a fucking mess the first couple months. Like it's so hard. You're so sleep deprived. The sleep was such a crazy thing, and every single baby is different. I have friends whose babies came out and like slept 8 hours to 12 hours every single night, like the moment they were born. I have yet to experience that. Like Eden is now just starting to kind of give us, like last night she slept 8 to 5. That hasn't happened. I pray to God we get more nights like that. But this is like a very new thing that we're getting this. So I actually have a lot of like really intense thoughts on motherhood. So I think a lot about feminism. And I think obviously feminism, men and women are created equal. Of course, that's a very grounded belief. However, there's some marketing around feminism that I actually don't align with anymore. Like you could go make partner at your law firm or you could be a mother, but like you can't, the messaging that it's going to be just as fulfilling for you to be partner at your law firm is not as equal to what it would be like to be a mother.
Mhm.
It's not the same energy exchange. So I think there's something very candid and honest there that we need to say because it's so primal to smell your child's head and to think to yourself, this is the best smell in the whole entire world. And to just like hold this baby that's like so juicy, even when she's upset, even when she is like giving me a hard time, like, which I like, give me the big emotion, show me what's going on. But motherhood is the greatest, most amazing thing ever. It gave me a lot of clarity in my business of how I want to show up. It helped me restructure what's most important for me. So I do have so much freedom in my life and business. And I also think it made me a more authentic leader because I remember early on in my spiritual coaching business taking on mothers as clients and thinking that I could help them and sharing the frameworks and the practices and the meditations. And yes, the frameworks and the meditations and the practices were incredibly helpful. And I now know because I went through it how much deeper I could have witnessed their experience. So I think motherhood has made me a way better spiritual teacher, a way better entrepreneur, infinitely better midwife of the soul, guide, coach, mentor, and so humbled, right? Like kicked me on my ass for a very long time. Still, like last night we slept, but 2 nights ago we didn't sleep.
Mhm.
And I went through the day, whole day yesterday being like, why do I feel so shitty? It's like, oh, you haven't slept. And
Yeah.
another thing that I'll say is like, I felt because I've led so many retreats, and I feel like the reason I was so good at leading retreats is because I didn't really need a lot of sleep. I now need a lot more sleep, actually. Like, I really need 8.5 hours. It's just, you change everything about you. You change so much, but
Mhm.
it's the best. I highly recommend it.
I'm curious, would you have said that gaining partnership at the law firm versus motherhood before you had Eden, would have that been on the same level for you, or has that changed? Did that change after motherhood?
Yeah, no, that changed after motherhood. So the messaging that I think is harmful to women is you will be just as fulfilled if you give up your vacation days, you give up your lunch hour, you prioritize work over dating, prioritize work over sleeping, prioritize work over regulated nervous system, prioritize work over creating a family. That I think is harmful
Mm.
because it's the messaging of you'll get this fancy title, you'll get a bigger salary, and you'll be fulfilled. But there's no level of fulfillment equal to being in partnership where you're seen as your most authentic self or having a baby that you love. It's different layers of depth. That's just my own perspective on it. I think absolutely you can have both. It just comes down to priorities. But it's really the messaging of it that I think is very shocking. Like
Yeah.
prioritize your career over prioritize starting a family. And I prioritized my career for so long at the same time of hoping that one day I would be married and have a family. But I do think it's very important for people who are looking at their lives and reflecting and thinking to themselves, wow, I really desire partnership. I really desire to be a mother or a parent at some point, but I haven't prioritized networking or matchmaking or dating at all. I've only prioritized my work. There's course correction that needs to occur. And this is why I think snapshot manifestation, which you know is also so powerful because it helps you reverse engineer. You see your deep desire and dream, and then how you're living day in and day out, and where you can shift.
Yeah. I think as I am growing older, I'm coming upon that same realization. So I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah. And it's also okay if you did like it's not that people need to agree, it's that we just need to have uh in, intuitive and knowledgeable criticism about what we were taught as a society and what we are drinking from the media or what we are drinking from other authors, influencers, leaders in the space.
Mhm.
And who wins, right? So, who wins if you're working really hard at a company, or who wins if you are taking time to nurture and be with your family? Does your company win or do your kids win? I just read something recently. I think it was Sahil Bloom who put it out, but it's like the only person that remembers that you worked really late into the night are your kids, not your boss. So I think that's a good point of reflection as well.
What are you working on these days, Erin?
Right now, we are launching our 8th cohort of the Aligned Coaching Certification, where you become a certified meditation teacher and spiritual psychology coach. Tina, you can talk about it or do you want to talk about what your experience was in ACC?
So it was 9 months long. There's a small group of us, I think maybe 9 or 10 students that were live and there most of the time. And we just went on this journey together. And I learned presence, I learned meditation, I learned about manifestation and the frameworks to also teach this to other people. I was also going through a hard time in my life too. And so it helped me get out of that darkness by going through all of this education myself as well and brought me back into the present moment where then I could actually start to feel like I could rediscover who it was that I
Mm.
truly was and wanted to be, like my true essence of myself.
Oh my God, Tina, you're so cool. I know that was a powerful 9 months that we spent together.
I loved it. I loved it. I was so sad it was over.
Yeah, I know. I think it's like I always grieve at the end of term 4. It's really such an amazing program. There's no other program like it on the market. Term 1 is a full-on meditation teacher training. Term 2 is a spiritual psychology immersion, Eastern ritual, and its marriage to Western psychology. We actually added more depth to that term as well. Term 3 is our aligned coaching signature framework. So science of happiness, emotional intelligence, ABC theory, listening theory, manifestation, gestalt. Term 4 is our business and clinical immersion. And it truly is for the person that wants to be on a spiritual journey, the person that wants to become a certified meditation teacher and spiritual psychology coach, or somebody who already is in the coaching, wellness, mentorship space and wants new tools to add under their belt as well. But if anyone listening wants to join, just let me know that you listened to this podcast or you're connected to Tina. And we begin September 15th and we'll honor early action enrollment for you. So just let me know. Would love to connect. Would love to have anyone that feels called to this type of work.
I will definitely be dropping the link in the show description so you can find any additional information there. And thank you, Erin, so much for coming on to this episode. It was really, really nice to catch up with you and to talk to you again.
I love being with you, Tina. So good to see you. Thank you.
If you live in Windsor-Essex County area, then you should know that I host an open mic live storytelling event the last Saturday of every month at Aloe Lounge on Erie Street in Little Italy from 5 to 7 p.m. If you don't know what open mic storytelling is, well, I encourage anyone to come up and share their story. We have different themes every month. The event celebrates connection, our humanness, our emotions. It gives us space to really express ourselves and to have people listen, because I feel like we don't really get too much of this anymore. It is essentially a gathering of the souls and sharing a little part of ourselves with each other, whether it be a funny story, a sad story, a happy story, a romantic story, any story that is yours, you can share. And I'm loving the community that is coming from this event. So come to the event. I hope to see you there. You can purchase tickets at talesofthetown.ca.